return on their investments. So it's not easy to find people willing to fund these kinds of things, you know? And then those people rely on people like me to look into things like this and say, hey, is this something, is this something that looks maybe like it could be legitimate, like that we might want to do
Have
research?
you seen Bob's new interview with is it Danny Beal or the Beal Limitless podcast? Quite good. He goes into detail explaining his connections of the sacred geometry to the OdySee, the plasma, and the cold fusion technology.
No. Say that again. Sorry, I was reading this.
It's the Beal Limitless podcast. I think it's episode 26, and it's 4.5 hours that Bob Greenyer sat down with him, and he goes quite in detail into explaining both how it works with the Giza pyramids, how they're related to
this
stuff.
Yeah, I had showed this earlier. I watched a lot of it. I didn't want. I admit I couldn't get through the whole 4 hours, but I shared it with a couple other people, and they were, not super convinced by a lot of the stuff. There's a lot of stretches, man. A lot of jumps in the mix. I want to go back and watch this because this came up on the search, and I want to see what this only has 55 views and from 7 days ago. My tentative repudiation of Bob Greenyer as a spokesman for free energy.
Greetings. My tentative repudiation of Bob Greenyer as a spokesman for free energy. I do believe in free energy as expounded or discovered or proven by Martin Fleischmann and Stanley Pons back circa 1989. Martin Fleischmann, I think, was legitimate, and I believe him. However, Bob Greenyer, after Martin Fleischmann's death, created the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project and gives lots and lots of videos, which I find to be pretentious, possibly fraudulent. There's something wrong with this guy, and I apologize for ever mentioning him. I think he's either unable to communicate or he's a fraud.
So I've talked to a lot of physicists and people even connected with Martin Fleischmann and stuff, and they're like, dude,
this technology
they're not really like super keen on all this weird pyramid and thunderstorm generator and all this other stuff. I'm not super keen on the remote viewing stuff myself, but I'm a little more open to it after I learned that David Chester's funder there, Clee Irwin, the guy from Gravity Research, who started Gravity Research. Is it Gravity Research Foundation, or I always get them mixed up. Foundation. No, it's not Gravity Research Foundation. That's Babson's company there that has been around forever. It's quantum gravity research. Quantum gravity. So that's the word quantum in it. So quantum gravity research is the group that's run by Clee Irwin. And I guess Clee Irwin's son was able to do remote viewing. He could remote view, and I thought that was really weird. I'd like to investigate that and test that out more.
Right, we need to do actual scientific experiments with it. Get these people that say that they're at it and actually put it to the test. So that's the scientific method.
Yeah, I want to know more about it, like how it works and what its capabilities are. Because is it like, yeah, there's ways we could. I could think of all different ways we could test it if people could really do it and whatnot. Lord of Chem Pyramid. What is that? Land of Chem Pyramid?
Yeah, that's another channel out there that I've watched some of their videos, and that they also are with the pyramid as power plants, I believe, is their theory.
So that's like Christopher Dunn stuff.
I believe so, but I forget the actual name of the guy's channel.
He was on JRE with the pyramid, the Giza power plant stuff, and I read his book in high school. That was like one of the first books that got me into
Oh,
it.
chemical factories. Sorry, chemical factories making acid. That's the land of chem.
Well, according to Chris Dunn in his book, he said they put like grape juice and copper or something down in the Queen's chamber, and that the hydrogen gas would rise up from the Queen's chamber into the King's chamber, where it would that was like the reactor core in the pyramid or something. Chemical factories. What? Land of Chem. So he was on Danny Jones 5 months ago. Never seen
That
this.
said,
Egyptian blue. Oh yeah, okay. So I want to hear what he says about Egyptian blue, because there's a dude who says he can do it with natron. You can make it with natron and molten natron salt. We'll make the Egyptian blue color. Let's see what he says about that.
they were the first civilization that ever manufactured synthetic compound, something called Egyptian blue, which is calcium copper silicate, which is a very sophisticated molecule that we still don't understand today, the manufacturing process that was utilized by the Egyptians to produce this blue paint.
We still don't know how they did it.
Still don't know.
Really?
Right. And
wow.
So the miraculous thing about Egyptian blue and the compound, so Egyptian blue, let's say it's just a paint, right? You find this paint over all of these temple walls covering the entire country of Egypt. So how many gallons of paint do you need to paint all of these temples? We're talking about hundreds of thousands of gallons of paint. This is indicative of an industrial scale chemical manufacturing process that had to be required to produce all of the paint for this industry. So it's a perfect example that
That's a ton of paint.
it's a ton of paint, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of gallons. And they've discovered that the chemical composition of all of the samples of Egyptian blue taken from all of these temples is incredibly consistent. And the compound has not changed over thousands of years. The molecule has not degraded. So it's an incredibly resilient chemical compound. They've also been testing Egyptian blue with modern day applications, and they've realized that it's a material for heat storage as well, and insulation, and it also emits photons. So when Egyptian blue absorbs light, it also emits light.
This says, what does that say at the end there? It says it was known to the Romans by the name Suriculum. After the Roman era, the Egyptian blue fell from use, and thereafter the manner of its creation was forgotten. In modern times, scientists have been able to analyze its chemistry and reconstruct how to make it. The ancient Egyptian word what does that say? Wiz? I don't know how to say that. Signifies blue, blue-green, and green. The first recorded use of Egyptian blue as the color name in English was in 1809. Calcium copper
Tetrasilicate.
Tetrasilicate.
Calcium copper silicate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a very sophisticated chemical compound. And they do have a general idea of how to produce this molecule, right, in a modern application. But they still don't understand exactly how the Egyptians were doing it.
Right.
Because they've never found the reactors that were utilized to produce this thing.
Yeah.
Right. So we can make it using modern applications, which give us an idea of how it was produced in the ancient time, but they still don't know exactly how they were manufacturing the compound.
Right. Are you aware of any sort of evidence of?
So let me find the guy, and he shows how to make the compound. One way how to make it, which definitely would have been known to the Egyptians, or should have been known to the Egyptians, which is crazy because this is like one of the ingredients in water glass, which is what you need to make geopolymer stones. So there's this whole theory that let me just find this real quick here. This is Marcel Foti on Twitter, Foma Hun. Interesting guy. He makes these natron salt blocks. Where's the thing, man? I want to show the video. He burns the natron salt and it makes this, and it leaves this blue stuff behind. Oh, there it is. See? He made the Egyptian blue. Today's granite etching seance with a round scoop mark and some Egyptian blue again as a pleasant surprise. Haven't seen this Egyptian blue since last year. In fact, it only happened once when I was lucky enough to use the oven of a ceramicist. Now it's here again, born in my humble grill chimney. So it needs really, really high temperatures, but you can cook this, and then you can actually get the Egyptian blue, which is there must be some kind of more efficient process for manufacturing this in bulk. If the Egyptians, in fact, had a whole industry of making this, but the fact that this guy's an independent researcher trying to work with these geopolymers, he's made these incredible sculptures out of geopolymer. I failed at making geopolymer a couple times until I tried Marcel's recipe. When I tried Marcel's recipe, it definitely worked. It's also not water soluble, so once the stones form, rain won't deteriorate them. I've soaked them in water. They've the geopolymers that we've created, really interesting stuff. This guy froze the coin. It looks just like rock. It's just like real rock, but it's cast.
If you go up, he had a picture of the Shamir worm, which is supposedly the thing that King Solomon used to build the temple without tools.
Yes, this. So he said that the Shamir worm was this worm that Solomon had that he could eat that it would eat the stone with, this worm. And what's really interesting is that when you take the natron salt and you burn the molten salt, it eats rock, and as a byproduct, it produces this Egyptian blue stuff as a byproduct, which is like, this is technology the Egyptians clearly had that was lost. We forgot about it, or we didn't.
Well, that worm was supposedly brought by a bird that is now extinct. It would pick it up and then drop it off for them somewhere that they knew where to get it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That could be interpretation or a tale, like it could be disinformation too. That could be just what, they told them not to give up the secret of how they really did it, So this guy, Marcel, though, Marcel Foti on Twitter, guys, go look him up. And this is some of the etching that he did. So this is natron salt on a block of granite. And he sat there burning the molten natron salt. And it does eat away a little bit at the granite, man. That's what it does to it.
So I called back in just because I was reminded when I was in first grade, 1996, 7 or so, I was at recess and I just happened to look up and I see a flying saucer about 80 feet in the air, slowly floated into a cloud. It was a pewter-colored UFO, flying saucer, and just floated into this cloud and then didn't come out the other side. I didn't tell anybody because I thought, oh, they'll either say you're crazy or say, oh, that's nice. But then a few years ago, I thought, oh, maybe somebody else has seen one there. My school was right next to the Hamilton Air Force Base in Novato, California. So I looked it up and there's reports going back to the 40s of people seeing stuff there. Me and my friends go there sometimes and we talk to people. Have you seen anything here? And they say no. Then I tell them my story and they say, oh, now that you mention it, a bouncing ball of light followed my son home from school. We saw a UFO over there, things like that. And there is footage on YouTube of a bouncing ball of light captured on somebody's doorbell cam there in Novato, California. So I just wanted to see if you know anything about that area, Hamilton Air Force Base, Novato, because there's that one original case, one of the original cases where they went to the Air Force flew to pick up some wreckage. The plane that picked up the wreckage crashed on the way back to Hamilton Air Force Base. Also, Pearl Harbor, they weren't prepared for Pearl Harbor as they could have been because they were expecting planes to come from Hamilton Air Force Base. So when the planes came, they thought they were their friends from Hamilton Air Force Base. That sounded very suspicious to me. Any thoughts?
I have not done any research into that, man. That's all new to me, so I don't have. I'm not prepared. And
well, you have the keywords now, and if you are interested, you can do the.
Yeah, that's
have a good night, guys.
Hamilton Air Force Base. I'm gonna have to look into that. That's Hamilton Field. Inactive in 73 and decommissioned in 74.
Hello.
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 How's it going?
Hey. How are you?
A little jealous.
Do explain.
I wanted to go to that New Jersey party. Oh, so I was a little jealous yesterday. I'm like, this party's missing 3 people, maybe actually 4 people. Jeremy Reese, Aiden, me, and BurnEye.
Yeah.
You know, it was missing 4 people. Anyway, but yeah.
Jeremy, how come you didn't make it? You're the closest.
I had other things that I had to do.
Family duties. That's
and
understandable.
Duties and other stuff that I could not make it this time, unfortunately.
But they're off a few days because it's really actually the 20th. I think that was when, but anyway, I could be wrong. But I thought they were supposed to be on November, but I could be wrong. Anyway.
Dang.
So, you were saying you have not had a chance to get a hold of Jeremiah yet, but he's down at the lab working.
Yeah, I talked to him a couple of days ago, just quickly about and I mentioned that to him about well, I'll just talk about it openly because I think
it needs to be addressed because I think it's bullshit at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So as you know, we have this database that I've been collecting, files, and I've been keeping a database on the UFO stuff for decades, and when I started sharing this, around with our group, and I don't know why it's not opening this. I'm trying to open it, but it won't let me. I started sharing the database around, and we got a whole bunch of the other people in the group and the APEC groups to basically join in and add their art files to the archive in the hopes that we could create one big, giant, massive database with just everyone's files, and that we could bring more. We'd bring more people in and just keep creating this big, awesome, super awesome database. The more people we could bring in and update on the archive and stuff, man. Taryn Earthland is here, and I would like you to join, man. If you can, please join, because we need to address this, Sean, and what's going on.
Why isn't my channel is not going live for some reason? This is kind of.
Oh yeah.
Did they strike me?
We're having trouble streaming the issue on YouTube's end. We'll keep trying to let you know it's resolved. Wow, huh? Maybe they did. Maybe there's something going on there.
Did they strike me for coming out with this and telling them what's going on and that it's bullshit potentially? It's not.
I don't think it has to do with the forum. I did play a couple.
No, I mean the other channel that made the accusations that I have a bunch of his material on my channel. Did he maybe strike me and get me deleted? I'm gonna have to look into this.
I struck someone on accident one time when I was just on the YouTube back end. I brought up the whole page of copyright strikes, and I clicked on it, and I was like, I didn't know. I don't know what I did, but I
Well, it's doing it for
regretted
both
it
of them now.
immediately, and I've never done it since. You know, I just
Can somebody like contact YouTube and say, hey, we're a bunch of friends, we have different channels, but some data is being leaked. Could you guys go back and see,
well, this is the thing is it's the database is on Google Drive, so it would be Google, which is I guess the NSA, which is maybe we're just asking for it. I mean, I don't know. We could have used Dropbox and done a different file share service, but and I tried to be selective. I was selective with the people that I asked to be admit to the forum. Well, I could have probably been a little bit more careful. But the idea is I just wanted to get as much. I just wanted the data, and if there were people providing stuff that was interesting, I'd let them in because it's like, hey, seems like
Welcome, Taryn.
wasn't the purpose that like everybody contributed whatever paper they could find or any,
everyone has stuff saved. Yeah, papers, patents, all kinds of different stuff from people. Different people do different research. So the idea was to put it all in one giant database, and then we feed it through the AI.
Yeah,
So we don't have time to read, thousands and thousands of papers and stuff. But hey, other people went through and found this stuff, and we can set an AI to go and access the database. Then we can just query the AI, and it will give us questions that it knows from searching that massive database. So yeah, we were using it to power an LLM on physgpt.com, and we set this all up to try to train a physics engine on purely all the classified UFO related and technical related data and stuff, to try to train an AI on that and see if we could ask the AI questions about anti-gravity and get potential solutions for what to actually try in the lab. Because it gets to the point where it was just like, all right, we only have a limited amount of time. What do we try? What do we do first? Are we wasting our time? Yeah, so we don't want to waste our time trying to streamline this process. It seemed like a pretty good idea, and until you let one bad player into the group, one bad apple is all it takes to spoil the whole bunch, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I went and viewed it online today, and my laptop just shut down, and then it won't start back up. And I've heard this from a couple people.
So it's not you, Taryn. You are not the hacker.
No, I can't hack.
Well, it won't even let me open it up. I just tried to open it up, and maybe I don't want to open it up because if I do, something really bad will happen.
Well, this is what happened. So, like, one time I went on it, and then all of a sudden it shut down. Then it came back on, and then just before Windows loaded up, after I logged in, a blank screen went on, like in view, and it let the terminal blinking light, but it was a square, so it looked like a Linux kind of thing. And then all of a sudden it just went and loaded up Windows, and then I went back on it again online, and then my laptop shut down again. Then my laptop won't turn on anymore.
Where is this being hosted? Like
this is on Google. Yeah, Google Drive.
No, I'm asking like the database that was being compiled.
Yeah,
server for that.
It's Google. It's Google Drive. That's what they call it.
Yeah, but
Google. It's on their servers.
Yeah, but
I just uploaded it to them.
You're
I have it offline. Yeah, I have it offline one, so I can transfer it to another one, which I probably will plan on do. It's just sad.
Real quick, Jeremy, I posted 2 links in your private chat. One is the bouncing ball of light that matches the description of the person who I happened to meet there that we're asking about the stuff they might have seen there. The second one is an interesting video, I think. It's a video of Israel shooting down a drone, I think in 2010, with a F-15 or whatever their Air Force plane is. And if you look at the explosion that when it hits the drone, it's exactly, to me, it looks exactly like whatever hit the South Tower.
All right. Let's
interesting.
Let's bring it up right after the Natron crap. Yeah, that was cool. I'm glad. I've been doing a lot of research on all this kind of stuff, so I'm glad I could connect those dots that weren't really connected in the podcast there on the Egyptian blue.
So yeah, Jeremy, just a little real quickly here. My plan really was to show off the stuff from 1915, all the flying saucer stuff from the Electrical Experimenters magazine. Do you remember that? It was from the United States Patent Office. They owned it.
No, I don't remember that. You can send a link in the. I'll bring that up next. I'm just watching this.
Yeah.
Looks like flubber to me a little bit.
Looks like ball lightning.
Ball lightning for the win.
Wow, cool.
I wouldn't touch it. I
Sure
get vaped.
Oh,
I wouldn't want to get vaped.
looks like a Hadouken.
It wouldn't have mattered to me except that it matched their description of the thing they'd seen.
Welcome back, everybody. We've just received new video of the Israeli Air Force strike Peter Ducey mentioned earlier in our show. The Air Force struck down an unmanned aircraft flying over their airspace. Now, officials are saying they are still trying to figure out where the drone came from. The Israeli Defense Force tells Fox News it did not come from Gaza. The drone was not carrying any weapons. It appears to have been for monitoring and intelligence gathering purposes. Right now, that's what we know.
But you see the double ejection, like remember when the thing hit the tower and then there's like two shell casings or whatever, the thing that came out the other side of the tower, and it matches this perfectly from what I'm seeing.
You think this is a fake?
Are you saying that it was an Israel drone?
No. Whatever their air-to-air missiles are, with maybe a hologram of a plane projected around it or whatever, however they did that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know how you project a hologram of a plane around a flying plane. You know, that seems like a.
Well, if it had a hologram projector on the missile or whatever the thing was, well, what do you think hit the tower? A plane?
I think that the planes crossed over Stewart Air Force Base at the same exact time, right? UA-175 and AA-11. Stewart Air Force Base is definitely a key to the whole thing. Stewart Air Force Base is where the Continuity of Government program held their disaster scenario planning think tanks back in the day. I mean, some of them were at Stewart. Others were at Andrews, I think. Andrews? No, were they at Andrews? But Stewart Air Force Base is definitely knows what happened to those planes. Whether they were just taken over with the uninterruptible autopilot by Boeing and just flown by automated augmented GPS, just directed into the towers by remote control, or if there was a drone swap, because that was one thing I entertained for a while. After my debates and the research done by Aidan Monahan, I really have given up on the drone swap hypothesis, but I had originally entertained the whole drone swap hypothesis because of Operation Northwoods,
Right. You've heard what Trump said that day, right? In the interview that Trump gave on the day of 9/11, where he said he thinks there must have been explosions that timed precisely for when the plane hit the building to allow it to get inside the building because the steel was so strong, a plane would never make it through.
Yeah. I mean, there was aluminum on the outside. The steel was the real core of the building was on the inside box columns, and it was a lot of hollow space inside the towers. It was an open structure, but
Didn't they find some kind of residue from the molten iron? Like if it's exposed to explosive, it melts in fractals rather than like a liquid, format, something like that.
the metallurgy, I mean, is definitely interesting for the collapse. That's what convinced me that it was thermite was the appendix C there.
So that's my 2 cents. Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks, man. The appendix C of the FEMA report. I think this is it. Is this FEMA appendix C? No, that's not it.
You know the
There
thing
it is.
here, the drone shooting down the plane or whatever. Well, can you see how the direction of the projectile? Like, where did it come from? Did it come from land or did it come from above? Because it does matter the angle on how it hit it.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. It's just the planes. If you get into a UA 175 for the last 12 seconds, it was filmed from all these different angles. The plane makes a single corrective maneuver before crashing into the towers. So if you were flying that with a human pilot, you'd be like correcting it every other second, like trying to fly it. If it was computer controlled, you'd see exactly flown the way it was flown. I think the people involved in all this need to be brought to justice and held accountable. I've been calling them out for decades with the videos and the playlists that I have on here and on 9/11. I think every year I do an anniversary video.
Yeah.
The map. I have this graphic that I put together with all the who I believe are the suspects that should have been arrested and investigated and put under surveillance for the crimes of 9/11. And the main ones are like guys like Paul Bremer, missed work morning of 9/11, worked in the impact zone of the tower, went on to become the Iraq War occupation governor. Deep ties to the Bush administration. I talk about Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld as two of the key players. Both of them worked for the continuity of government program think tanks that would have been the ones that planned 9/11. And both of them also worked for the Foreign Policy Advisory Board for Solomon Smith Barney, which is, of course, World Trade Center 7's largest tenant. So both of them worked inside World Trade Center Building 7. Before joining the Bush administration. That is key, along with the World Trade Center security apparatus and the companies, the people that worked for that security apparatus, who are, of course, connected to Leidos Corporation, SAIC, which made all the airport scanners. So they made billions of dollars selling airport scanners to airports after 9/11, which is why they needed the planes. They couldn't just blow up the towers and with a truck bomb or something. They had to fly the planes into it because the planes that were hijacked with box cutters getting onto the planes, so that we had to keep everyone safe from box cutters at the airports. So suddenly all the airports needed these high-tech scanners that these companies like SAIC were busy developing for the 10 years prior with the terahertz wave technology that they had been building and working on, trying to find a market for it and figure out how to sell it to the American people. And they got their ways. Let me tell you. So the whole petrodollar recycling thing too with the whole oil. So big oil, if you guys want to, there's a whole documentary called The Prize. Daniel Yergin is the guy. He wrote this book. There's 2 books. He wrote a sequel to this as well. But this book if you get a chance, there's 8 episodes. They're an hour long each, so it's 8 hours. It's an 8-hour history. This should be shown in schools and taught in schools. This is great. If you guys want to go and find The Prize on Daniel Yergin's YouTube channel and watch the whole history, learn about Ida Tarbell and how Ida Tarbell exposed Rockefeller and big oil and started the whole antitrust legislation that broke up the monopoly of Standard Oil back in the day. There's a whole it's a fascinating story, man. She was like the whistleblower of her day, man, taking on like the biggest and most powerful people in the world, and tells her whole story about there's such a crazy history there. What happened with the Rockefellers and how they took control of the country. But yeah, it's important to understand that history and everything that happened. There's a lot to it, a lot that goes on, and just seeing how cutthroat the oil companies are, at what they've done to end up where we are today. Like I think D. Harold Byrd was probably the most notorious oil man of recent history. Of course, he's the guy that killed JFK, no doubt. LBJ's good friend. Also owned the Civil Air Patrol, where Oswald got his start in the military. It was a known CIA recruiting ground in the Civil Air Patrol. So Oswald gets his start with Harold Byrd's company. After some time, winds up back in Texas, with living under the roof of Harold Byrd's good friend, Ruth Paine. And Ruth Paine, still alive, by the way, 92 years old, the last surviving co-conspirator in the JFK assassination, and probably.
So as soon as she dies, maybe that's when Trump will be allowed to
They'll
release
be allowed.
JFK.
I think he should just arrest her right now. I think 92 years old or not, man. I think they should just go and arrest her.
No, the little old lady. We should go help her out.
This little old lady, man, she's CIA, dude. She's the one that testified. Hers the main testimony for the Warren Commission's false report, and she was like good friends with Harold Byrd, and the Oswalds gave the Oswalds a home and a place to live, and said, hey, you should have told Lee that he should apply for a job at the Texas School Book Depository. And of course, Lee gets the job with a really good pay and a really decent job there at the Texas School Book Depository building, where they later claimed he shot the president from. There's all a patsy, man. It was all a setup. The whole thing was organized by a deep state, which exists above the president. This guy was good friends with LBJ. So was this whole crew that operated around Oswald, and brought it to the forefront. And then also we come to find out that Oswald and D. Harold Byrd, the big oil men, all right, they used to call him Dry Hole Byrd, because D.H. Byrd, they used to call it Dry Hole. And he was really mad at Kennedy because of this oil depletion allowance thing, which, this oil depletion allowance, basically the government paid these oil companies back millions of dollars if they didn't find oil. So they could just drill and drill whatever they wanted. They could drill endlessly, and they'd get paid back for all of it until they found oil. It was like this scam called the oil depletion allowance. You can look this up. And Kennedy was going to do away with it. So not only was he going to do away with the CIA, do away with this, didn't have air support for the Bay of Pigs operation, aka Operation Zapata, based off of Zapata Offshore, the oil drilling company run by George H.W. Bush at the time, who was very definitely a covert CIA asset in the Bay of Pigs and invasion and all that stuff, and definitely had ties to Dallas and Texas. He was in Fort Worth, Texas, at the Kiwanis Club giving a speech during the assassination, and then flew out of there in a private plane, which some say Mr. Zeppo's plane there was actually flew the Alpha 66 hit squad out of Dallas. So they brought in this Cuban exiles, military exiles who had been trained to assassinate Fidel Castro, and they brought that group into Dallas to kill the president that day. And they were flown out on Mr. Zeppo's plane. And Barbara Bush writes about the hair-raising day in her book, in her memoirs, and she mentions this Zeppo character. Anyone's ever heard of him? But apparently, that's where George H.W. Bush was. He was flying in this private plane out of the area. And also, he was meeting with a guy named Al Ulmer. And Al Ulmer was a American intelligence officer who specialized in coup d'etats and overthrows in government stuff, which is really interesting for him to be that guy on the exact day. There's a whole bunch of weird intelligence connections to the JFK assassination. This was the old deep state that took over our president back in the 60s. They're, of course, deeply connected with private aerospace companies because, as D. Harold Bird owned Ling Temco Boat, right? So LTV was this company that made flying saucers for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base during the 1940s. You can look up the boat Flying Pancake, one of the first flying saucers with propeller powered, and I'm sure they made jet powered ones too. That, and a lot of other experimental aircraft during these very important formative decades in the secret space programs. This was NASA wasn't invented until 1958, and they were doing a lot of work building these classified kind of airframes and products for the government, and also for VTOL, like vertical takeoff and landing craft. This one could flip its wings like this and literally pull it like helicopters, lift itself up in the air and then take off. So they were also trying to build flying saucers, man. So, and building tactical ballistic missiles. Yeah. So they're doing like super classified building stuff for super classified programs. And, of course, this guy also owns the building where the president's shot from when he says he's going to go after all these things and shut them down. Which is really weird. It's just that it's lasted this long, that they've been able to cover it up and last it that long. But yeah, what are we going to do about all this with the government, and how are we going to ensure that the deep state takes all these people out? I mean, RFK Jr. is openly talked about who killed his father, RFK, at the Ambassador Hotel that night. He's openly named, Thane Eugene Caesar as the assassin, the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works security guard who had been hired as backup security for the Ambassador Hotel that night. Here he is, just hanging out in the background, and then he's the one that follows RFK into the kitchen, and where Sirhan, the programmed Manchurian candidate assassin, is waiting there with a gun, starts opening fire on RFK, shoots him, and at the same time these shots ring out, and this Lockheed Skunk Works security guards following RFK into the pantry. He pulls out a small gun and shoots two bullets right like here at point blank range, right from behind his head. And those are the shots that actually killed Kennedy, RFK's father, Bobby. And those shots were fired no more than 4 inches away from a point blank range with a pistol from right behind him. Clearly not where Sirhan was standing, and the bullet holes in the room don't match. There's too many bullet holes for the gun, so they definitely took RFK's father out. RFK's openly spoke about this and talked about it. So this is going to come out, man, when these guys get into office. They're going to be going after the JFK files. I hope they go after the 9/11 stuff and the 9/11 conspirators. They haven't mentioned anything about that or said anything about that. I think that might be just because it's too touchy and controversial, but they have mentioned UFOs. Trump has, been the only president to really, address the issue and say that he's going to, take it seriously and look into it, other than, Jimmy Carter said he would. But then once he got into office, he called in the CIA director, who was at the time George H.W. Bush. And George H.W. Bush told him, like, hell no, hell to the no. Which is another wild thing, man, because in 1976, when Jimmy Carter gets elected, is a wild year, especially with George H.W. Bush being appointed. This is the bicentennial, the 200-year anniversary of the country. And right at this time, we're appointing, this president who's going to change things, and the CIA director who has no past experience with the agency and is coming from as an outsider, going to clean up the agency and really fix the CIA and clean things up. And that man is, George H.W. Bush, who then proceeds to move all of the top secret CIA operations and clandestine things into private companies, which then operate as private corporations. And so they're outside the CIA, so they're no longer accessible to FOIA, no longer accountable, and it's more stovepiped and fragmented than ever before. And this is the demon who put all that together and did it, and able to fool the entire country into thinking that he's a decent and good person, that he was this Navy pilot who didn't wasn't involved in an intelligence op from his father to make him into a war hero for his future political career and campaign,
and responsible for JFK's murder,
and very, very responsible. Also, George H.W. Bush knew another one of Oswald's friends, George de Mohrenschildt, and George de Mohrenschildt was friends with Ruth Paine and all the whole crew, and had Bush's name in his notebooks. He's the oil geologist, and wrote to Bush during the 9/11, during these hearings, the House Select Committee on Assassination hearings. He wrote to him begging for help. He said, "Look, I want, and then he winds up friggin' dead in his hotel room, 2 shots in the back of the head, suicide type deal. And right before he can testify, he was set to go and testify and tell the Warren Commission what he knew. And they killed him before he could. There's a bunch of witnesses that just died mysteriously right before that they could all spill the beans on the whole Warren Commission thing, man. And it's insane because they destroyed our history. They robbed us of our history. They've covered it up. There is a deep state. They've existed untouched, since the JFK assassination. They've dealt drugs in this country with this, CIA narcotics trafficking. One of the presidents, super involved with all that CIA coke coming into the country, was mentioned in numerous CIA agents' books, like Compromised by Terry Reid and others. Testified, Barry Seal and all these people, were running the cocaine for Pablo Escobar, and they were flying it directly over the Louisiana swamp, dumping it with GPS trackers in the Louisiana swamp for swampers to go out in swamp boats and go pick up the coke and the packages they were dropping from the planes, and they would land the planes in Mena, Arkansas. Mena, Arkansas was Bill Clinton's state at the time. So how do you think Bill Clinton, this no-name governor from the state of Arkansas, got to be president of the United States? Well, he's another Kamala Harris, another CIA puppet, candidate that they're just going to, fake and create a whole image around and put in the presidency. They thought they could do it with Kamala. Convinced a lot of people that they were doing it. Look at all that cocaine. And that's nothing compared to what the CIA is bringing in. Pounds and pounds and pounds in packages. Well, yeah, the drugs are us, man. That's the CIA, and they shut down the 60s, man. They shut down the hippie movement and all the protesters with the hard drugs and all that stuff. And then it's terrible what they did with the Charles Manson murders, man, because it turns out that Charles Manson, didn't hypnotize those people to commit the Tate murders, Bianca murders themselves, right? He was trained. No, Charles Manson had help and training. Who was giving him the LSD and the training in the 60s on how to brainwash people into committing murders? Guess what? It was the CIA. And guess who they hired to, be his lawyer and prosecute him? A guy named Vincent Bugliosi, who was CIA and involved in all this crazy nonsense. Absolute shitbag, scumbag, lying piece of shit, fucking douche, whore. Should have been arrested, thrown in jail along with all his other fucking fictitious asshole buddies who have done nothing but destroy the American people. This was a psyop that they talked about in California that nobody locked their doors before the Manson murders. And suddenly nobody trusted hippies. All this peace, love, and harmony in the 60s was over. It was done after that. The CIA killed it. They shut it right the fuck down. Gangster style. With this crazy fucking lunatic who was the hippie murderer. Horrible, horrific, crazy, blood smeared on the walls, helter skelter. They sprinkled the wallets in black neighborhoods to try to start a race war and all this shit. That's the CIA, buddy. That was the CIA. 3-letter agency. None of these people have been held accountable, man.
How do you feel about Pompeo being kind of locked out of the Trump administration?
Great. F that guy.
I know.
CIA head, warmongering, war hawk, neocon.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know what's going on, man, because there's been real quiet, and then there's been fake news articles floating around saying that Trump's going to drop RFK from the campaign totally. And people are getting all riled up because they think that's legit.
Better not.
He better not. If he does it, it's. I swear to God, like
that would piss off a lot of people.
It would be bedlam. It would ruin him. All his support.
It's not happening. RFK is definitely
better not.
No, because
Trump has the opportunity to make
even
history.
Gave RFK a shout out in his victory speech, saying, "You're in the you're getting the health. Just stay away from the oil." That was Trump's quote. So I don't see him going back on that. Right.
Right. Well, this is wild, man. It's wild with everything that's going on because he are they going to take down the deep state? How much of it can they take down in 4 years? How much? And there's these meetings going on.
All they need is Ron Paul to audit the Fed, and the deep state is done.
Yes, done.
Don't you think he's so pissed off at all the allegations that he's not going to use his position to take revenge on all these assholes? You don't think so? I mean,
I think they're bracing for it and they're ready. I think they're predicting it. They know who Trump is and how he is. I think that he learned a lot in his first term about where he and how he fucked up, and then Kennedy's educating him more and more. I don't think these picks are legit. Some of the people that they've said he's picked for cabinet appointees and staff, and some of the reasons, I don't know. Can't trust all those stories yet until it actually happens. We're going to see in January what really happens, because we don't know if they're planning something even deeper. They might be playing 5D chess and saying, "Yeah, we're going to hire Mike Pompeo and all these guys," and then when they come to show up to work on the first day, they get fucking handcuffed.
That would be glorious.
That would be glorious, right? And then be like, "Nope, sorry, you weren't the one. Actually, we have this other guy who's, also showing up to take the real job. You're going to a prison cell along with Liz Cheney and all the people that and all the January 6th protesters are getting pardoned because the FBI set that whole thing up as with provocateurs and also with the guys, who did 9/11, who Trump mistakenly hired as his freaking lawyer, Rudy Giuliani,
right?
Not even realizing that, Giuliani's like deep state as they could be. And he's the guy that's
responsible for part of 9/11 during his mayoral administration.
Yes. and partially responsible for January 6th, because he's the guy telling Trump that, you know, you won this election, we need to contest this, we need to do this. He pushed Trump to literally do that. So I think that in the upcoming months, there's going to be a lot learned. I think we have an opportunity here as citizens, though, to really educate people. People are in a state of shock right now, knowing that Trump won, especially up here in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. I mean, you've seen all the videos.
Democracy right there. Like, why are people shocked? People spoke, people went and voted, and he won. This is what democracy is. So
they're shocked that it was actually democratic process.
You know,
Yeah, they're
just
I don't know. You've seen the videos, though, the meltdowns. Have you seen the meltdown videos? They're
Yeah. And now there's like a whole
Hilarious.
bunch of like these I'm not going to use a term to offend them, but liberal meltdowns of, I guess, women that are trying to come up with this ancient poison for poisoning all their husbands who voted for Trump, supposedly. It's this thing going on TikTok. It's
Oh,
wild.
yeah. Well, they're also shaving their heads and saying they're not going to have sex for 4 years, and they're going to punish all the men.
Shaving your head and making yourself unattractive so you actually can't have sex for 4 years is a little bit different than actually poisoning your husbands. And
there's other ones that saying they're gonna seduce Republicans who are married so that they can cause them to break up with their wives. There's a whole bunch of ones out there. It's crazy what's going on out there, but I haven't heard anyone, I think that the best way as a people we could come together and totally shut the system down is if everyone shut the courts down. We've occupied the streets, we've occupied, the art galleries and sprayed things on paints before. But if you shut down all the courthouses and said, listen, if you're not going to serve justice for Fauci and all these elites that deserve to go to prison, then you're not going to serve justice for anyone. We're ungovernable now because you've proven yourselves unfit to govern. And if you can't, if you can't govern, then we're not gonna. That would be the ultimate shutdown for the government, is if everyone shut down the courts and said, no, there's no justice at all until there's justice for you people. You can't have justice for us if you're not having justice for you as well. And
I agree. I mean, with more power comes more responsibility and more accountability. That's how it should be.
Absolutely. And the fact that we have these courts that are governing us, and they're a big part of your whole local government is the courthouse, the judicial branch. That's the base of the pyramid. If you topple the base of the pyramid, the top has nothing to stand on. So it's a key foundational infrastructure for your government. And if you want to shake the core, the power to its core, that's, I think, how moving forward the public needs to handle this is that, we need to put signs up saying, everywhere saying that, the government's going to get shut down if you guys don't handle your business. If the Pentagon's meeting about how they're going to protect these people right now and having, secret meetings behind the scenes about how they're going to maintain this power structure and protect all this is like, we need to be having our own meetings behind the scenes about how we're going to dismantle and disrupt this power structure that's existed for literally thousands of years. These families have controlled all the banking, the 13 families that created the Fed on Jekyll Island, and these people are not going to give up power willingly. They're not. It's not going to happen. And they have so much power, so deep. This is going to take a very precise and very calculated part on the whole of the American people to take them down. And I think that these targeted policies, and then the police too, right? Just like after George Floyd, right? The riots and everything, they went and burned the police station down. That did nothing. Now, if they had all organized and shut down the courts and said, listen, you're not going to do justice on anyone until these murderers are held accountable, and the DA, who the DA from Staten Island that said, I'm not going to press charges against the cop who killed George Floyd, right? If we all got up you said, you're not going to press charges against anyone unless unless you press charges against, if we could, this is what needs to happen. These courts have way too much power over all of us, and they can literally just make up charges and send you to jail, send you to prison for years of your life, just based on one witness testimony. They don't need anything more than one witness's testimony to send you away to jail for years and years. And those are the same courts that will tell you that witness testimony is unreliable for your UFO sighting or your other witnesses who saw a second shooter on the grassy knoll. They're unreliable because it's just eyewitness testimony, right? This is bullshit. Double standards with government. It's double speak. It's absolute nonsense.
Just have to go back to Hillary Clinton and everything she was caught with, which should have landed her in jail for espionage and leaking.
And then the Hunter Biden laptop. They had all these intelligence agencies come out and say it was Russian disinformation, and they covered it all up in the FBI. We don't, it's this level of corruption that can happen at the top, and the things that the Hunter Bidens out there are allowed to get away with, right? You smoke crack with a bunch of hookers in a hotel room and filmed yourself doing it.
Right? Like, legitimately, that's what was on the laptop. I watched that shit. I'm scarred for life for seeing. Oh, I'm not even gonna say it because they'll probably get this freaking stream taken down.
That was just performance art. That was performance art before his actual painting.
I have on how you could we could take control, but I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble, for saying it.
No, this is not your idea. I mean, this is this is a think tank for also about
control of a government. You take its money, you cripple it.
Yeah, the banks and also the
audit the Fed.
So in Fight Club, remember in Fight Club, the end of Fight Club, they blew up all the credit card companies and all the towers that housed all the files for the credit card debt. So they wiped the credit card debt for the entire nation, and all of a sudden it was just like, we don't have control over people anymore.
Yeah, you take control of the money of the country. You take control of the country. That's the truth. Not for the younger generation. It's the control of data.
Imagine if on January 6th this year, we all said, you have till January 6th to arrest and start prosecuting the deep state. Or on January 6th, we're literally coming for the courts. We're coming for the credit card companies. We're coming for the banks. And all of it's getting shut down completely.
Well, I wonder how many competing factions there are really behind the scenes.
I mean, this is a peaceful way. We always think of the peaceful way of getting what you want,
Right.
Remember, we were talking about hacking maybe 30, 40 minutes ago. You understand that they are not bulletproof, their systems. Yeah. Okay, take all that information and zero out their servers. Now they don't. What do they have? Nothing. They don't have the sign, literally delete their computers, but back it up. And if they don't have data, they don't, that's data is money too. You understand? It's like a ripple effect. You take one thing that they, rely on and use that as a leverage.
Right.
Like Elon in the interview he did with Joe Rogan, saying if Trump gets elected, he's putting out the full Epstein list. Hopefully that happens.
Well, there's also rumors that he's on that Epstein. He has
exactly. But is
he's
Trump
got a pretty
on
close
that
relationship with the guy. So, and then he was also killed under Trump's watch too. So man.
Life without
it's very sketchy. Very sketchy.
Trump, thank you for releasing the list, but who's that one name that's been redacted?
I don't know.
Okay, you could talk about money,
and it ends in UMP.
Different kind of.
I don't know, man. It has me. It has really, really conflicted over all this, man, because it's like at one time, because there's part of me, I've had this debate with a friend of mine who's in the intelligence, the guy, I brought him on a couple times, and he said that, Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago once he realized what he like the full extent of what he was up to, that he didn't do this. But it's like, come on, Trump is like, he's had all these affairs, and to think that he wouldn't fuck around, and then his whole thing with the pageants, walking in on the Miss Teen Beauty Queen and all that, whatever
and there's pictures of his current wife sitting on his lap as like a young child and stuff, of where it's like, was he actually grooming her? Like, I don't know. It's very questionable and sketchy.
It's questionable, man. So it's like, is he compromised and part of the deep state? Then why is he, is this a limited hangout, kind of like that they're going to pretend like Trump's going to take down the deep state, but because you're either taking down the deep state or you're not, man. There's no like faking this. There's no pretending. And this is like your second time around. And this is it, man. This is his chance to like literally make history.
But I almost wonder,
he would be enshrined on Mount Rushmore if he took out the deep state. If he took him out and like he was the guy that like he would be like, it would be talked about, and historians would go back and be talking about this time in history for the next 1,000 years, man.
That'd be amazing. I wonder if it's like factions of military intelligence competing against factions of the CIA and the banking cartels. I wonder if it's kind of a mix of these different groups going against each other.
Yeah. I would say to a certain extent it is that, because you have like the neocons, and sometimes they work together, though. It's like, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, man. That's for sure. And then
was Trump ever hanging out with P. Diddy or only Kanye? Because if it's only Kanye, then maybe we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But if he was at a P. Diddy freak off, well, that says it all, right?
Yeah, man. No, I don't think he's LeBron James. But
you hear stories, and these are people like
Ashton Kutcher, the guy that was supposedly saving children for all this time, and then is like best friends with P. Diddy. Okay.
That was
all of the oil at the P. Diddy party is from Trump steaks. It's the oil from the steaks.
And then what if they're trying to just pin all this on Trump, and this is all, because they said that Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. What if this is all, deep state disinformation?
True. Right.
So there's a lot of weird takes on this. I don't know. I'm really having a hard time.
So how we will actually know is if there's another attempt on Trump's life before he gets into office, or as soon as he's in office, because then they're actually trying to kill him.
Who do you think is the deep state actually? Like what secret society do you think it is?
Skull and Bones, because they kill people and they're a bunch of boners. I don't know.
I thought it was like
Yale senior.
I thought it was maybe that Mark Twain place where they have that giant owl. I thought it was them.
I think it's mostly financial.
Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, them. I thought it was them.
It's. I think it's an ancient line of like the Crusaders. It has got to be something really, really old. Can't be something that's like invented in modern day. There has to be like a guardianship of some philosophy, passed down.
But I think we're talking about two different levels. I think on one level you've got people like the Jesuits and maybe the Templars and all these other groups, and then on another level I think you have the different financiers and banking groups and everything.
Well, isn't that what that place is all about at Bohemian Grove? Like you have prime ministers and presidents there.
Also military people. I mean, this is where Leslie Groves announced the plan for the Manhattan Project. I mean, this is where they launched it. It was at Bohemian Grove. So it's there's it
makes me wonder if they have a navy. And they're being the way they are, they'd be self-funding.
Dude, they probably have military all over this, planet. At any time, they, press that button and they gather their troops. I mean, we here live with a lot of controls on this stuff because there's a lot of surveillance and stuff like that. But in other countries, that stuff doesn't exist. So it's easy to become a dormant secret army, Think about it. How much oppression is, there is on the other side of the world. $100 would probably buy, that person. You get it? Yeah. I'm 100% sure they have a secret army and it's distributed everywhere.
Well, it's a secret society would be the only way you can really have a shadow government, especially if the governance there are presidents and prime ministers, especially from North America and other places, close by. So, to me, that makes sense because, like, how else could you have, like, what behind door scenes, like, could you acquire, for example, like, most of Canada's national protected waterways were sold by a guy who goes there, and that could make a lot of hydrogen. That can make a lot of compressed air, atmosphere. So it's very, very useful. You can, and not only that, waterways make gold through cavitation. At least that's what I talked to with Bob Greener about one time.
I like that. I like what you're talking about. Because
like the iron would come along the stream and then it would hit cavitation and transmute, right? Like, I don't know. But anyways, you have these powerful people all in this one spot, and there's a shadow government. Like, you think this governance would have a place to go where it's secret, and there's a lot of them, and there's been told that they have a navy. So who else would it be?
So we'll know if Kamala ends up in Antarctica.
Or the Arctic. Who knows?
What is Blackwater?
Blackwater? It depends on if you're talking about Navy terms. If Blackwater would mean out in space, where blue water would mean just on the outside of Earth, or like in the solar system.
No, I'm talking about a militarized militia privately, and this exists in the United States called Blackwater.
Well, Blackwater also would mean international waters, and international waters have completely different laws, maritime law.
Well, I think Blackwater renamed itself to ZXI. And if Kamala ends up in Antarctica, I think that would be called a cackle sickle.
That's funny.
Well, like space is international waters, right? So, like, therefore the laws of that would govern international waters is maritime law, isn't it not?
Mm.
I don't know. It's food for thought because like, there's dictations on technologies and locations, yet like you can make them there and then take them to international waters and build something. So like, and make things that you could do things there where you would not be allowed to do.
Like, you mean like a scientific experimentation?
Well, yes. And many other things, right? Depending on what contract law you sign, allowing them to govern you.
Well, it's international water. That's the idea.
Yeah. Well, no. International waters would mean that it would be contract law and maritime law. Sorry.
To whom?
And sometimes your governance will dictate what your status is.
But again, it's international water. The whole idea that it's, it's open. There's no governing. It's international water.
Yeah, you could do. They claim you could do whatever you want, which is kind of scary to thought. But
so there's no commission. There's nowhere that you fill out an application.
Well, if you're going to break the laws, especially when you're a big acronym organization, I guess you could. You're in international waters. What kind of,
So that picture of Trump there, it looks more like he's the leader of the Illuminati in that image.
And I was thinking the same thing. But
yeah, I'll just step out of here for a
Yeah,
minute.
I had asked it to make Trump like draining the swamp, and every time it puts Trump in the swamp, or it puts like, yeah, it's really weird. He's always in the swamp with the swamp creatures. Like it won't and even though I tried to prompt it to like make Trump out of the swamp with pointing towards the swamp, no, it would have Trump in the swamp.
the AI won't let Trump be above the swamp.
Yeah.
It won't.
Let Trump be on top of the White House, turning a tap, draining the swamp.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll try it, but dude, I'm telling you, try to get Grok to do it. Either Grok knows something we don't.
Well, you know something odd. MAGA, of course, means magician, and Hillary called him the Pied Piper at one point in the WikiLeaks email. So, in the tarot card, the magician is holding a wand, and a flute is kind of like a wand. So, who knows?
Those are the swamp creatures. That's probably how many of them there actually are. The CIA, the government, the courts, everything else. Man, this like,
no, that's not enough.
It's not enough,
right? Like if Eric Prince becomes a part of the Trump administration, that's very suspect as well. The owner of what was previously called Blackwater.
I just try to think like if 1,000 of us, sacrificed our lives, could we just take them out one at a time and do it? Like, I don't know if we
I wonder that too, but do you want to be the first?
I know. No, because they probably wouldn't. Nobody would follow you, and I'd be like, "Damn it!"
Come on, guys, let's go. Come on,
led the charge for nothing.
Well, so it looks like Blackwater has renamed itself several times. It was renamed ZXE Services in 2009, renamed to Academy in 2011, and now it's Constellus Holdings. So, I don't know.
Yeah, sounds like someone trying to avoid legalities.
Yeah.
You were talking earlier about this company that is a patent holding company. What do those do? They just freeze people's applications? I didn't understand what that department did, or a patent holding company. What do they do?
The patent holding companies.
Yeah,
they scoop up the patents and they classify them before they can make it to the U.S. Patent Office and become a matter of public record. That's where classified patents go. They classify the patents, and then they often will buy them out and shelf them too. Yeah, so.
Yeah, they put them under classifications, like depending on what types of technology as well. Like, they have like these little subsections. Like most cavitation technologies are completely classified. So you'll find that. And like that includes charge cavitation and whatnot.
So, like, what happens to the people that submit those patents?
See, he's in the swamp again. I told it put him on top of the White House. He's in the swamp again. It does not want him anywhere but in the swamp with the swamp creatures.
I love the reptilian.
Elon's AI too, right?
And that's Elon's AI. So I don't know, man. You guys can try it yourselves, dude. Just no matter what you tell it to do, it puts Trump in that damn swamp.
Can you tell it to use the Skeksis from Dark Crystal as a reference for the swamp creatures?
Dark Crystal. Oh, those things. Oh God.
This is a good movie.
That's what I picture them looking like.
Sucking the life force out.
Well, they have more of a snout.
Well,
they're about 8 foot.
Yeah. Well, this is great, everyone. Thank you all for joining. We're going on 2.5 hours here. I want to shut this down before we break 800. We just broke 700 people watching live, so that
Right, and it wouldn't even let me restream to either of my YouTube channels repeatedly. And then I tried Facebook, and it won't even let me restream to Facebook. So
that's how shadow banned I am.
Right,
I think it's all of us
wild.
now. I think it's now. It's like the collective is shadow banned. All the friends.
Well, Taryn, when you figure out how to get into your files without it crashing your computer,
Oh, I no. I have it all on my hard drive, and I have access to that.
Nice. So we can still do a future stream together.
Oh yeah, we're doing that because this is BS, man. Like, there's no way I'm not gonna let this. Like, I'm gonna show people this happened years ago, like years beyond we even imagined. Like in the early 1900s, this is all started, and yeah. It's
right, like that's the thing. It's like, okay, this UFOs aren't new. They've been around literally for like generations of generations. You can find them painted in old paintings hundreds of years old.
Not just that. Like I explained to Jeremy just not too long ago, the Electrical Experimenters magazine that was owned by the United States Patent Office back in 1915, they were releasing all the information of, like, Tesla was in it all the time. All these great inventors, like even Birkeland, the guy, Kirsten Birkeland, the guy who created Birkeland currents, like he had a nitrogen furnace that was like really popular in this magazine. But like in the stories, they would show all the field propulsion craft and how like beams of energy were like hitting them, and they were luminescent, and like it was pretty cool stuff. Like it's all there, 1915, 1916, 1917, as you keep on going on. And the idea was there back then to do it. And from what I understand, if the patent office is starting to groom people with these stories to build these things, I'm assuming so that the military can come in and acquire them for their projects. And then, you kind of just disappear.
Man, they've been doing that literally for over a century now.
Oh, yeah, of course. And that's the saddest part. And it's all... sorry.
I said, I wonder if they send them to Mars, because...
Oh, probably.
The secret Mars thing,
Well, what blew me away was that the CRT technology is a really excellent method of using tractor beam and repulsion with electrostatics. Like you could use, instead of using magnetic yokes, you use electrostatic louvers or fins, and you would use them to steer the craft around. Like you learn this from Lake Mirabeau, and like you could use a similar type technology if you were using lasers. You could make literally like a CRT television type effect. And you could literally, if you wanted to, maybe even like project a screen of what you want them to see onto like a planet or a moon, so that you couldn't see what was actually underneath it if it was like a satellite system.
Well, we will go deep into that in a future episode, hopefully this week.
The possibilities are endless if you really think about it.
We needed to have a talk about fixing, getting a back. I have an earlier backup of my database, pre-hacking. So I'm gonna keep that on I'm gonna double that copy that.
I honestly thought the only time it ever I got a problem was when I went online through my browser onto the Google Drive and then went through it there, and that's when my computer got resetted and then it shut down, and then it won't turn back on now. My laptop.
Wow.
Oh, crap. Well, that's not cool. We're gonna have to we'll have to see about that, man. And if not, I'll figure it out, man. We'll talk about it. We'll get it back up as soon as I want to make a version that's available for like everyone, man. It's just
well, I seriously, like, I have to have like a group of people there so that we can sift through what's copyright and what's not, and then we can just throw it up for everyone.
we share the whole database with Stephen Greer and them.
Oh my God! Do you remember? Oh, I didn't. I don't know if you remember what happened then. Okay, so what happened was I gave it to them.
Yeah,
and then there was like some talk about like a whole bunch of guys getting offed. I know it was weird. It kind of and I don't know if it was because of that database or the other one they had because they had a bunch of them. But well, like this is all this is all engineering. That's all I'm doing on this. It's like engineering white papers and videos, and that's like like that's the meat and potatoes. That's like, and it's even like I'm showing you from back in 1915. This was thought to be engineered, and if the United States Patent Office is making this magazine with all these stories about going to Mars and there's flying saucers all in them, and they obviously knew about flying saucers then, so they obviously knew about field propulsion then. So what's really going on and what really happened back then that's been kept from us? Because they're obviously controlling the printing presses, they're controlling, information being put out. But sometimes there's ways. Oh, you're muted.
It's a good point. Even if Greer is not CIA himself, he's definitely hacked by CIA, and they're definitely like on him, like flies on shit.
Why do them always trying to shoot down the UFOs though?
I'm assuming there's other countries. I honestly think everyone just took it and ran with the aliens. They're like, no one's gonna ever figure it out, and we're good at like
that's trying to shoot the UFOs down.
Well, but
then they wouldn't be shooting them down.
The real secrets is like manufacturing in space, right? The weightlessness of space. There's a lot you could do there. Like I don't know if you ever heard of David Adair. He explains a lot of great things.
I was just about to say, like David Adair.
Yeah, like electrophoretic processors, freeform casting molten metals in the weightlessness of space in a standing sound wave with coupling vibrato waves with a 6-dimensional array. Like there's so many fascinating things, and like I have the patents for all this type of stuff from the 60s and all that, so like you can go through them and understand exactly what can be possible.
Yep, hell yeah. I remember hearing about a whole bunch of that stuff and talking about it back in the day, dude. This is the future, man. I definitely think there's more going on, and people need to wake up to it, man. I don't know how to wake more people up.
Well, the hospitals in space literally could age regress. They could literally heal every single element you could possibly imagine of. Because all you have to do is put someone in a container and turn it into a giant electrophoretic processor, and all of a sudden every cell in the body is going to line up like Pac-Man, and you can organize it the way you want to. All you have to do is add maybe a couple incisions, and you could just excrete what you want and store it inside a container because you're in this giant standing sound wave. And like literally, you could easily do every single thing you possibly imagine. None of that, hormones grow 60 times bigger in the weightlessness of space. So therefore, you could have white blood cells that could take on any form of whatever in the weightlessness of space. You could probably separate any type of carcinogenic that's inside someone's body if you just ran but I mean, you have to do this safely.
Clean you out, take your cancer out, get your lungs cleaned out too, all that stuff, man.
Yeah, they said they could 3D print body parts without scaffolding in the weightlessness of space using your own DNA.
Stem cells,
yeah.
That'd be pretty nuts. Well, that's of course for the elites who can afford it, and not for me and you.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if we did get out there, anyone could do it. That's why it's kept secret.
Stem cells?
No.
Well, I like to believe that there are good actors and that there are good groups, and maybe Luis Elizondo is just playing a role, but I do want to believe. I would be inclined to think that military intelligence is more likely to be on the good side of things, but
I don't know about.
I gotta call it a night, guys. I don't know. You're welcome to. I don't know if it's. I'm gonna end it here. I think because
I got to work tomorrow.
Yeah, I gotta go finish that bathroom I showed you at the beginning of the stream tomorrow. So
yeah, you do.
I haven't taken a shower either. I don't have one until tomorrow. So yeah, I'm gonna go to sleep and on the couch because I don't want to get the bed dirty.
Well, on that note, thank you for having me on. Thank you for the discussion. Hopefully Trump is able to drain the swamp, and hopefully StreamYard and YouTube let me stream, and I'm going to try to figure that out after this.
Yeah, you feel free to cut it up and post some pieces of it, just not the parts of me saying about what we need to do. What
of course,
what people could
nothing to get you canceled. Absolutely.
do. All right. Yeah. Okay. Have a good night. Later, guys.